Chapter 40 of The Ice Monster by David Walliams, narrated by me. Chapter 40, Chocolate Balls. Wooly was way too fast for the policeman. By the time they'd scrambled to their feet, the mammoth was long gone. The creature galloped out of the grounds of the Natural History Museum and charged down the road. Hoo! Try as she might, Elsie could not get the animal to slow down. Poor Dotty was thrown around on the back of the mammoth. Oof! 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 London was waking up, and a handful of market stall holders were wheeling their produce along the snow-covered roads. "Mind me, plums!" shouted one as his barrow of fruit was trampled underfoot. "Watch me nuts!" yelled another one as his roasted chestnuts were sent flying. "You've crushed my chocolate balls!" howled a familiar voice. "That must be Raj," remarked Dotty. "Who?" asked Elsie. "Raj! He sells sweets at the market here," replied Dotty. She called out to him, "Hello, Raj!" The man smiled and waved. "Oh, hello, Miss Dotty, my favourite customer. I have some half-chewed licorice on special offer today. I can't stop, Raj! And feel free to come back with the huge, furry, long-nosed donkey of yours for a sugar lump." "She's a mammoth." "She's very big for a moth." Still, the mammoth galloped through the snow. "Whoo!" she cried. "Where's she taking us?" asked Dotty. "I don't know," replied Elsie. "But wherever we're going to get there fast." With some difficulty, Dotty lifted her head to see for herself. "North!" she exclaimed. We're heading north." "Always north," replied the girl. Up ahead, Elsie saw the sandwich board man she'd met outside the Natural History Museum. On spotting the mammoth charging towards him, he shouted, "The beast is alive! The end is nigh!" "Your end will be nigh if you don't get out of the way," shouted Elsie. By tugging on the mammoth's fur, the girl just managed to make her swerve past him. "The end is not quite nigh," he shouted as they passed. "Wooly's going to trample someone to death if we're not careful," said Elsie. "We need to get her off the streets, hide her somewhere." "I know the perfect place," replied Dotty. "Where?" "The Royal Hospital. It's not far. It's where Titch lives. He'll help us." "How do we get there? Can you see her?" "A little bit." "And steer right." The girl tugged on the fur on the mammoth's right side, and the animal veered right. "But Dotty, we can't just turn up there with a mammoth." The lady was stumped by this. "Oh, yes. You're right. I'm pretty sure they only treat old soldiers, not animals. Prehistoric animals. Yes, I imagine they aren't welcome." "Someone might tell on us. We have to disguise her somehow," said the girl. "We could shave her and say she's an elephant. Hold on." "I am holding on, love, for dear life." "I've got an idea." Elsie steered the mammoth down a dingy back street. Just ahead was a laundry, where a number of sheets were hanging to dry. "We just need to borrow these sheets." "Whatever for?" "You'll see." Chapter 41, Good Eye. "It's a what?" roared the guard at the gate of the Royal Hospital, of the fearsome old soldier, a sergeant major no less, with a chest full of medals on his scarlet coat. He sported a monocle on his left eye and an eye patch on his right. "It's a brand new, top-secret tank," replied Elsie, gesturing at the mammoth hidden under some sheets. "Balderdash!" "It's not balderdash. It's a brand new weapon for Private Toms," added Dotty. "Titch Toms?" "Yes, that's him. The shortish one." "Shortish is an understatement." chortled the sergeant major. Titch is so tiny, he gets mistaken for a toy soldier. Dotty started to look angry. She didn't appreciate hearing the love of her life spoken about this in this manner. He may be small, but he is perfectly formed. Titch is 73. Fees a day, replied the sergeant major, and his feet wouldn't reach the pedals. Why on earth does he need this contraction for? It's top secret, isn't it? Answered Elsie. If we told you, it wouldn't be top secret. The old soldier did not look convinced. Who are you, anyway? That's top secret too, replied the girl. Now open this gate, ordered Dotty. Whoo! Went the mammoth. From under the sheet, she raised her trunk. The sergeant major was becoming increasingly suspicious. Elsie and Dotty looked at each other nervously. What was that? Asked the sergeant. That? Asked Dotty. Yes, that. Well, began Elsie. It was its cannon thing, just lifting up. She pushed down on the trunk, and Wooly let another. Hoo! It just said something, snarled the sergeant major. No, it didn't. Yes, it did. Didn't? Did? It was me, chimed in Dotty. I was looking at you the whole time, said the old soldier. From the good eye. Yes, from the good eye. Your face didn't move. Well, began Dotty. That's because... Spit it out, woman! That's because it came from my body. Your body, madam? Chapter 42. Backdoor Barrage. It was a bottom burp, explained Dotty. I can't smell anything, protested the sergeant major, pointing his nose towards the lady and sniffing the air. Oh, count yourself lucky, chimed in Elsie, continuing the lie by wafting the air in front of her screwed up. Pooh! It's a real stinker. How utterly uncouth, huffed the old soldier. I have no idea that ladies could even, for want of a more polite expression, unleash a gas attack. Sadly, it happens, mused Dotty. Whoo! There's my bottom again. Other military terms for breaking wind the sergeant major could have used include one gun salute, bottom blast, invisible grenade, dirty bomb, backdoor barrage, attack from the rear. Whoo! Oops! And again. The sergeant major's face turned a shade of beetroot. Madam, do you have any control over your, for want of a more polite expression, rear gun? Whoo! It seems not, replied Dotty. Dotty's gotty a grotty botty. Elsie could feel the mammoth becoming more and more restless. Please let us through before she lets another one go. Most irregular, muttered the old soldier. He raised the gate at once and saluted as the three unlikely visitors passed through into the grounds of the Royal Hospital. Thank you so much, said Elsie. Whoo! Naughty bottom, called out Dotty, slapping her own rear end. Just as they led the mammoth across the lawn, she stopped. With her trunk, she snuffled under the snow and began to munch on the frozen grass. Rump, rump, rump. Having not eaten for thousands of years, the animal was hungry. As much as the pair tried to keep moving, the mammoth was staying put. From under the sheet, she munched and munched and munched. She must have eaten a ton of grass before she was full. From his sentry post, the sergeant major looked on. He raised a telescope to his good eye and spied on the strange goings goings-on in the hospital grounds of the Royal Hospital. "Just refuelling," called out Elsie. The old soldier shook his head. "Ruddy, strange sort of tank." "Yes, it doubles as a lawnmower," said Dotty. Just as the pair thought they might have gotten away with it, the inevitable happened. The animal laid a mammoth poop. Thud! The prehistoric poop plopped onto the snow. It was mammoth before, in origin and size, large and brown and steaming. "Just testing the brand new weaponry," explained Elsie. "It's a stink bomb," added Dotty. "Don't worry," began Elsie. "It's not explosive." Then she added under her breath, "I think." "Well, you can't leave it there on the lawn," roared the Sergeant Major. "What do you want us to do with it?" asked Elsie. "Put it back in the chute." The pair looked at the back end of the mammoth. "I'm not sure that's going to work," said Dotty. "I say it's more of an exit than an entrance." "Well, pick it up then," he ordered. "Me?" asked Dotty. She'd been a cleaning lady for 40 years and had dealt with all kinds of unspeakable mess, but this was beyond. "Yes, you," said Elsie. The lady gave this little girl a stern look. "Don't dilly-dally, woman. Get on with it," bellowed the Sergeant Major. Reluctantly, Dotty bent down, holding her nose as far away as the hot steaming pile as possible. The lady scooped it up in her hands and stood up and held it away as far as her arms would allow. "At last!" called out the Sergeant Major. The three unlikely friends moved on. The little girl couldn't help but smile, which made the lady fume. "Wouldn't you care to swap?" asked Dotty, already knowing the answer. "I'm fine, thank you," said Elsie, leading the mammoth across the courtyard. She noticed an unusually short old soldier looking out at them from a tall window. He was smiling, waving and blowing kisses in the most extravagant manner. "Titch!" exclaimed Dotty. Chapter 43. A Grave Mistake. "Just looks like a hairy elephant to me," remarked Titch in his musical Welsh accent. Elsie was pleased to finally meet this man she'd heard so much about. He was indeed short, not even taller than her. In fact, Dotty was as wide as he was tall. There was no denying that they made an unusual match. However, all that mattered was that the pair glowed in each other's presence. The animal was drinking water from a toilet stall in the Royal Hospital, her trunk stuck down the U-bend. "Well, she's not a hairy elephant," replied Elsie, haughtily. "She's a woolly mammoth." "Oh, I never heard of such a thing," scoffed Titch. "Well, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's a prehistoric creature. I'm prehistoric myself. I don't remember seeing those as a boy in the Welsh valleys." "Well, that's because woolly mammoths died out thousands of years ago." "And you just brought her back to life, did you?" said the man with a chuckle. "Yes," replied Elsie. "Actually, we did." They stopped and the old soldier stopped in his tracks. He looked at Dotty for confirmation. The lady nodded her head. "Well, what the ruddy hell is he doing here?" he demanded. I was rather hoping you would help us hide her," replied Dotty. "Me?" "Yes." "Here?" "Yes." "Great big furry elephant?" "Well, no." Elsie jumped in to correct him. "She's a woolly mammoth." "How long for?" he asked. "They live for 50 years or more." 50? "Yes, this is just a baby one." How big do they grow?" "To about the size of an house." "A house?" Just then there was a sound of a flush in the stall next door. Splish! An impossibly old man shuffled out, wearing a nightshirt with a military cap, leaning on a cane. The three looked at one another in panic. They'd have no idea the man had been in there the whole time. "Morning, Colonel," said Titch. "Oh, I'd leave that a minute if I were you," muttered the Colonel, wafting the air and eventually making the smell worse. Not better. Despite the stink, the three smiled back at him, but said nothing, hoping he might shuffle on. He didn't. The Colonel spotted the rear end of the mammoth sticking out of the stall next to his. He took a moment to admire it before commenting. "My word! That's quite a remarkable large furry bottom. New boy, is he?" "It's a pet," replied Titch. "A pet?" "Yeah. Now, I would hate for you to miss your breakfast, Colonel. Let me help you to the dining hall." The private took the Colonel by the arm, but the old man was having none of it. "You can't keep a pet in the Royal Hospital, Private. It's against regulations." "Well, he won't be here long," replied Titch, shooting a look at Dotty. "No more than 50 years, Colonel, sir," chipped in the lady. Elsie shook her head in disbelief at Dotty's stupidity. 50 years? Spluttered the Colonel. "What kind of animal is that thing anyway?" "She's a woolly mammoth," replied Elsie. "A what?" asked the man. "It's like a hairy elephant," added Dotty. "We can't have a hairy elephant in here," shouted the man. "Whatever is this country coming to? Get the blasted beast out!" With that, he whacked the mammoth's bottom with his stick. Thwack! That would prove to be a grave mistake. Chapter 44. Right up my what's-it. "No!" shouted Elsie. "Whoo!" cried the animal. She began buckling from side to side. Crunch! The wooden partitions between the toilets splitted into pieces as the mammoth struggled to get out. When she lurched backwards, the Colonel gave her another whack with his cane. "Take that, you hairy-bottomed beast!" Thwack! "Stop!" cried Elsie. She lurched as the Colonel and held onto his arm to stop him striking her friend again. "Get your filthy hands off me, girl!" The mammoth was trying to turn herself round in the cramped toilet. Her tusks bashed into the toilet bowl. Crash! Smushing it to pieces. Splat! Water began gushing everywhere, soaking everybody and everything. "Oh!" cried the Colonel. "Oh, dearie me, more mess for me to clean up," remarked Dotty, never one to leave her job far behind. "I'm going to be in big trouble with the matron," said Titch, desperately trying to sit on all the toilets at once to stop water spraying across the ceiling. All he achieved was an incredibly wet bottom. "Woo!" he screamed as he propelled into the air. "The water's going right up my what's-it!" Eventually, the mammoth managed to turn herself round and whip the cane out of the man's hands with her trunk. With all her might, she hurled the cane across the room. Whiz! It hit the window. Bang! Shattering it. Crack! "Oh, crisps! Not another breakage," muttered the lady. The water level in the room was rising rapidly. All four humans and the mammoth were soon knee-deep in it. With all the noise, it was only a matter of time before someone came thumping on the door. Thud! 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 "What in heaven's sake is happening in there?" came a female voice. "Matron!" hissed Titch, a flash of panic in his eyes. Then he raised his voice. "It's all right, Matron! Everything is under control. Just a minor problem with the flush." The Colonel, who had only come in for a quiet morning poo, was having more of this nonsense. "Matron, they've got some great hairy elephant in here." "Seeing things again, Colonel?" she called out. "See for yourself, woman," he called back. Matron pushed open the door. A 10,000-year-old woolly mammoth was staring back at her. Before she had the time to scream, a rush of water swept her off her feet. Whoosh! And carried her down the corridor at speed. The other five all popped their heads round the door to watch her go. At least the floor is getting a good clean, remarked Dotty to herself. That's the end of these chapters, folks. If you enjoyed, please do not forget to like and subscribe and comment down below which book I should read after this one. See you guys in the next chapters. Bye-bye.